May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be always acceptable to you, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Thank you for this privilege. Mountains have been universal symbols of the dwelling place or meeting ground with the divine across cultures for millennia. Our Jewish, Christian, and Islamic scriptures are filled with holy mountains. Sinai, where Moses received the commandments; Horeb, where Elijah heard God's still, small voice. And today, we hear of Mount Tabor, where Peter, James, and John glimpse Jesus' divine nature. For mystics, the motif of climbing a mountain as the path to God is very common. It is also communal. No sane person would ever consider climbing a mountain alone. My favorite Sherpas are young children. I love accompanying them in their spiritual walk because they possess a natural openness to awe and mystery that's contagious. Each one is a unique little mystic. I remember taking my daughter to the Detroit Zoo butterfly garden when she was about 4 years old, and when a monarch landed on her outstretched finger, her eyes widened to perfect circles, and her mouth formed a silent O of astonishment. And she stood absolutely still, transfixed by this ordinary miracle. In that moment, she taught me more about prayer than any theological text I've ever read. Children don't analyze or categorize, they simply marvel. This childlike wonder is precisely what today's objectively bizarre reading from the Gospel of Luke bids us to enter into. And Jesus invites us to recover when he tells us we must become like children to enter the kingdom of heaven. It's not childishness he is recommending, but a childlike capacity for awe, a quality and distinctive brand of humility that abandons all arrogance and acknowledges and even celebrates that creation is full of mysteries that we will never understand. For us, clouds parting and booming voices telling us what we are to do are rare. Even in the Bible, they're rare, and I think we can be thankful for this. I know I get distressed and anxious when I read the news these days, so I'm not sure I could take too many talking clouds. But many of us have had some mountaintop experiences, right? Here and there in our lives. Those moments that touch us so deeply that we are left strangely inarticulate. Experiences that move us and frighten us and teach us and change us. Unexpected collisions with the divine that leave us stunned, wondering how to respond, perhaps even astounded to the point of silence, like the disciples today. I had one of these moments a few years back. At the end of every session in our atrium, we gather with the children around a prayer table to offer to God our special intentions. And at this time, our little ones usually pray for two things: their grandparents who are ill and their pets. Some pets are sick and some aren't. And if the child doesn't have a pet, they often pray for their friends or their neighbor's pet. And it's a very long litany. Some of these named turtles and fish and dogs passed away years ago. No matter. they are remembered in our atrium. But in a class a few years ago, a little girl, I think she was about 6 or 7 years old, veered from the norm. I remember that she was stuck like glue to me the entire atrium session, right next to me the whole time. And when we all sat down around the prayer table, she was intently watching and waiting for that closing ritual. And when it came time to light the candle and to offer our intentions, she scooted up real close to me so that our knees were touching, and she said in a small voice, "My brother, he died in my mama's belly last night." I knew then she had been waiting the whole hour in the atrium to share this news during this sacred ritual around our prayer table with her friends. On behalf of the group, I spoke a quiet, "I'm sorry, love." But then we fell into a long, sacred silence. No other intentions were offered that day. That little group of 6 and 7-year-olds just sat there and looked at the candle together. I was stunned at how completely still they all were. Little children, mourning, thinking of their friend's loss. It was a moment thick with God's presence. One of the children eventually broke the silence by saying, with great faith and tenderness, "Your brother is with the Good Shepherd now." And the little girl looked up and solemnly took this in, and even cracked a little smile that communicated that she was thinking the same thing. One's pondering and talking about the mystery of time and how her brother is just a few steps ahead of us, just a hair ahead of us, and now in the loving arms of the God who created us. I can only speak for myself, but I really felt that this was a time of profound shared experience of awe and wonder, and a kind of communal healing for all of us as we listen together for God. In today's gospel, when Jesus is transfigured before the disciples, this is a grand invitation to wonder and awe. But confronted with this overwhelming revelation, Peter responds in a very adult way. He tries to manage the situation, to make it comprehensible. "Master, let's put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah." Luke even tells us pointedly, he didn't know what he was saying. In the face of divine mystery, Peter's adult impulse to explain and control and contain fails. And I get it. I mean, I'm a little confused and uncomfortable, even listening to these readings. They're tough, right? We post-Enlightenment adults are often uneasy with this feeling of awe, of being in the presence of something vast that transcends our current understanding of the world. But in the face of God, the author of love, the creator of babies, the designer of the universe, what is our alternative? If we understood everything about God with our little brains, then God wouldn't deserve to be God. If this story about a glowing Jesus that heals sick children, who visits with dead prophets and dark clouds worthy of Verdi's Requiem, make us uncomfortable, oh well. Too bad for us. because this grand show is eternal. It is always sunrise somewhere. The dew is never all dried at once. Rain is forever falling. Vapor is ever rising. Eternal sunset as the earth rolls round. There are billions of people on this earth and billions more who have lived before us. At this minute, thousands are being born. Thousands are dying. Thousands are laughing. Thousands are doing virtuous acts. How can one heart, one mind, one person be aware of all of this? It's impossible for us to imagine. And that is part of the very definition of God. God is God and we are not. God's intimate, personal presence around and within us exceeds our imagination. This kind of awe is more than just an emotion. It's a kind of understanding, a way of drawing near to our loving Creator who wishes to be known by us, who longs to communicate with us. This is my beloved Son. Listen to him. And all were astounded at the greatness of God